From translation, RSV Revised Standard Version, this 138th day of the year. Today we are reading passages 2 Chronicles 28-31, 2 Chronicles chapter 28, verses 1 to 27. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, and he did not do what was right in the sight of the Lord, as his father David had done. But he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, and even made molten images for the Baals. He burned incense in the valley of the son of Hinnom, and burned his sons as an offering, according to the abominable practices of the nations whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel. And he sacrificed and burned incense on the high places, and on the hills, and under every green tree. Therefore the Lord his God gave him into the hand of the king of Syria. They defeated him and carried away a great number of captives, brought them to Damascus. He was also given into the hand of the king of Israel, who defeated him with great slaughter. For Pekah the son of Remaliah killed in Judah 120,000 in one day, all valiant men, because they had forsaken the Lord, the God of their fathers. Zikri, a mighty man of Ephraim, killed Marciah the king's son, Azrikam the commander of the army, and Elkanah, the second to the king. The people of Israel took captive 200,000 of their brethren, women, sons, and daughters, and also carried away much spoil from them, and brought the spoil to Samaria. But a prophet of the Lord was there, whose name was Oded, and he went out to meet the army that came to Samaria, and said to them, Behold, because the Lord, the God of your fathers, was angry with Judah, he gave them into your hand, but you have killed them in a rage that reaches up to heaven. And now you purpose to subjugate the people of Judah and Jerusalem, male and female, as your slaves. Are you not guilty before the Lord your God? Now hear me, and send back the captives from your brethren, whom you have taken, for the fierce wrath of the Lord is upon you. Then some of the heads of the men of Ephraim stood up. Azariah the son of Johanan, Berechiah the son of Meshillemoth, Jehizkiah the son of Shallum, and Amasa the son of Hadlai, against those who had come from the war. And said to them, You shall not bring the captives in here, for you intend to bring guilt upon us, adding to our sins and trespasses. For our guilt is already great, and there is fierce wrath against Israel. So the armed men left the captives, and the spoil before the princes and all the congregation. And the men who were designated by name rose and took the captives, and from the spoil they clothed all that were naked among them, giving them garments and sandals, providing them with food and drink, and anointing them, and carrying the feeble on asses, and bringing them to Jericho, the city of palm trees, to their brethren. Then they returned to Samaria. At that time King Ahaz sent to the king of Assyria for help, for the Edomites had come again and had attacked Judah and carried away captives. The Philistines had come and had invaded the cities of the lowland, and of the Negeb of Judah, and had taken Beth-Shemesh, Ajalon, Gederoth, Soko with its villages, Timnah with its villages, and Gimzo and its villages, and they settled there. For the Lord brought Judah low because of Ahaz king of Israel, for he had dealt wantonly in Judah, and had trespassed against the Lord. And Tilgath-Pilneser king of Assyria came to him, but he troubled him instead of strengthening him. Ahaz took away the utensils of the house of God, and cut in pieces the utensils of the house of God, and shut up the doors of the house of the Lord, and made altars for himself in every corner of Jerusalem. In the time of his distress, he became yet more faithless to the Lord. This same king Ahaz sacrificed to the gods of Damascus who had defeated him, for he said, Because the gods of the kings of Syria helped them, I will sacrifice to them that they may help me. But they were the ruin of him and of all Israel. And when Ahaz gathered the utensils of the house of God, he cut in pieces the utensils of the house of God, and shut up the doors of the house of the Lord, and made altars for himself in every corner of Jerusalem. And in every city of Judah he made high places to burn incense to other gods, and provoked to anger the Lord, the God of his fathers. Now the rest of his acts and all his ways from first to last, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Ahaz slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city, not in the tombs of the kings of Israel. And Hezekiah his son reigned in his stead. 2 Chronicles chapter 29, verses 1 to 36. Hezekiah began to reign when he was 25 years old, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abijah the daughter of Zechariah. And he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that David his father had done. In the first year of his reign, in the first month, he opened the doors of the house of the Lord and repaired them. He brought in the priests and the Levites, and assembled them in the square on the east side. And he said to them, Hear me, Levites, now consecrate yourselves, and consecrate the house of the Lord, the God of your fathers, and carry out the filth from the holy place. For our fathers have been unfaithful, and have done what was evil in the sight of the Lord our God, and have forsaken him, and have turned away their faces from the habitation of the Lord, and have turned their backs. They have also shut the doors of the vestibule, and put out the lamps, and have not burned incense or offered burnt offerings in the holy place to the God of Israel. Therefore the wrath of the Lord fell upon Judah and Jerusalem, and he has made them an object of horror, astonishment, and hissing, as you see with your own eyes. Behold, for our fathers have fallen by the sword, and we are in great distress this day. See, the sanctuary which our fathers esteemed has been burned with fire, and all its treasures have been destroyed. Now therefore do not be stiff-necked as your fathers were, but yield yourselves to the Lord, and come to his sanctuary, which he has sanctified forever, and serve the Lord your God, that his fierce wrath may turn away from you. For as you have abandoned the Lord, he has abandoned you. Then the Levites arose, Mahath the son of Amasai, and Joel the son of Azariah, of the sons of the Kohathites. And of the sons of Merari, Kish the son of Abdi, and Azariah the son of Jehalelel. And of the sons of Gershon, Joe the son of Zimmer, and Eden the son of Joe. And of the sons of Elizaphan, Shimri and Jewel. And of the sons of Asaph, Zechariah and Mattaniah. And of the sons of Heman, Jehuel and Shimei. And of the sons of Jeduthun, Shemaiah and Uzziel. They assembled their brethren and consecrated themselves, and went in as the king had commanded, by the words of the Lord, to cleanse the house of the Lord. The priests went into the inner part of the house of God to cleanse it, and brought forth all the uncleanness that they found in the temple of the Lord into the court of the house of the Lord, and the Levites took it, and carried it out to the brook Kidron. They began on the 1st day of the 1st month to sanctify, and on the 8th day of the month they came to the vestibule of the Lord. And they sanctified the house of the Lord in 8 days, and on the 16th day of the 1st month they finished. Then they went in to King Hezekiah and said, We have cleansed all the house of the Lord, the altar of burnt offering with all its vessels, and the table of the bread of the presence with all its vessels. Moreover, all the vessels which King Ahaz had broken, we have prepared and sanctified, and behold, they are before the altar of the Lord. Then King Hezekiah rose early, and gathered the rulers of the city, and went up to the house of the Lord. And they brought 7 bulls, 7 rams, 7 lambs, and 7 he-goats as a sin offering for the kingdom, and for the sanctuary, and for Judah. And he commanded the priests, the sons of Aaron, to offer them on the altar of the Lord. So they killed the bullocks, and the priests received the blood and sprinkled it on the altar. And they killed the rams, and sprinkled the blood upon the altar. They killed the lambs, and sprinkled the blood upon the altar. And they brought the he-goats to the king and the assembly, and they laid their hands upon them. And the priests killed them, and they made a sin offering with their blood upon the altar, to make atonement for all Israel. For the king commanded that the burnt offering and the sin offering be made for all Israel. And he stationed the Levites in the house of the Lord with cymbals, harps, and lyres, according to the command of David and of Gad the king's seer, and of Nathan the prophet, for the command was from the Lord by his prophets. The Levites stood with the instruments of David, and the priests with the trumpets. Then Hezekiah commanded that the burnt offering be offered on the altar. And when the burnt offering began, the song to the Lord began also, and the trumpets, accompanied by the instruments of David king of Israel. The whole assembly worshipped, and the singers sang, and the trumpeters sounded. All this continued until the offering of the burnt offering was finished. And when the offering was finished, the king and all who were present with him bowed themselves and worshipped. And Hezekiah the king and the leaders commanded the Levites to sing praises to the Lord with the words of David and of Asaph the seer. And they sang praises with gladness, and they bowed down and worshipped. Then Hezekiah said, Now that you have consecrated yourselves to the Lord, come near and bring sacrifices and thank offerings to the house of the Lord. And the assembly brought sacrifices and thank offerings, and as many as were of a willing heart brought burnt offerings. The number of the burnt offerings which the assembly brought was 70 bulls, 100 rams, and 200 lambs. All these were for a burnt offering to the Lord. And the consecrated gifts were 600 oxen and 3,000 sheep, but the priests were too few, so that they could not flay all the burnt offerings. Therefore their brethren the Levites helped them, until the work was finished, and until the priests had sanctified themselves. For the Levites were more upright in heart than the priests to sanctify themselves. And also the burnt offerings were in abundance, with the fat of the peace offerings, and the libations of drink offerings for every burnt offering. So the service of the house of the Lord was established. And Hezekiah and all the people rejoiced that God had prepared the people, for the thing was done suddenly. 2 Chronicles chapter 30, verses 1 to 27. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah, and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh, that they should come to the house of the Lord at Jerusalem, to keep the Passover to the Lord, the God of Israel. For the king had taken counsel, and his officers and all the assembly in Jerusalem, to keep the Passover in the 2nd month. For they could not keep it at that time, because the priests had not sanctified themselves in sufficient number, nor had the people gathered together as was prescribed. and the plan was right in the eyes of the king and all the assembly. So they decreed to make a proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba to Dan, that the people should come and keep the Passover to the Lord, the God of Israel, at Jerusalem, for not many of them had kept it as prescribed. So the couriers went throughout all Israel and Judah with letters from the king and his princes, according to the command of the king, O people of Israel, return to the Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, that he may turn again to those of you who have escaped and are left from the hand of the kings of Assyria. Do not be like your fathers and your brethren, who were faithless to the Lord their God, so that he made them a desolation, as you see. Do not now be stiff-necked as your fathers were, but yield yourselves to the Lord and come to his sanctuary, which he has sanctified forever, and serve the Lord your God, that his fierce wrath may turn away from you. For if you return to the Lord, your brethren and your children will find compassion with their captors, and return to this land. For the Lord your God is gracious and merciful, and will not turn away his face from you, if you return to him. So the couriers went from city to city through the country of Ephraim and Manasseh, and as far as Zebulun, but they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. However, some men of Asher, of Manasseh, and of Zebulun humbled themselves, and came to Jerusalem. The hand of God was also on Judah to give them one heart, to do what the king and the princes commanded by the word of the Lord. And a very great assembly was gathered in Jerusalem, to keep the feast of unleavened bread in the 2nd month. They set to work and removed the altars that were in Jerusalem, and all the altars for burning incense they took away and cast into the brook Kidron. And they killed the Passover on the 14th day of the 2nd month. And the priests and the Levites were ashamed, and consecrated themselves, and brought burnt offerings to the house of the Lord. They took their stand according to their custom, as the law of Moses, the man of God, required, and the priests sprinkled the blood which they received from the hand of the Levites, for there were many in the assembly who had not sanctified themselves. Therefore the Levites had to slaughter the Passover for everyone who was not clean, to consecrate it to the Lord. For a majority of the people, many of them from Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, and Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves, yet ate the Passover otherwise than as prescribed. For Hezekiah had prayed for them, saying, May the good Lord provide atonement for every one who sets his whole heart to seek God, the Lord, the God of his fathers, even though not according to the sanctuary's cleanness. The Lord hearkened to Hezekiah and healed the people. And the Levites made preparations for themselves, and for the priests, for the priests were busied in offering the burnt offering and the fat until night. So the Levites made preparations for themselves, and for the priests, the sons of Aaron. And the people of Israel who were present at Jerusalem kept the feast of unleavened bread 7 days with great gladness, and the Levites and the priests praised the Lord day by day, singing to the Lord with loud instruments. Hezekiah spoke encouragingly to all the Levites who showed good skill in the service of the Lord. So they ate the festival food for 7 days, sacrificing peace offerings and making confession to the Lord, the God of their fathers. Then the whole assembly agreed together to keep the feast 7 days more. So they kept it 7 days with gladness. For Hezekiah king of Judah gave the assembly 1,000 bulls and 7,000 sheep. And the princes gave the assembly 1,000 bulls and 10,000 sheep, and a great number of priests sanctified themselves. And all the assembly of Judah, with the priests and the Levites, and all the assembly that came out of Israel, and the sojourners who came out of the land of Israel, and the sojourners who dwelt in Judah, rejoiced. So there was great joy in Jerusalem, for since the time of Solomon the son of David, king of Israel, there had been nothing like this in Jerusalem. Then the priests and the Levites arose and blessed the people, and their voice was heard, and their prayer came to his holy habitation, to heaven. 2 Chronicles chapter 31, verses 1 to 21. And when all this was finished, all Israel who were present went out to the cities of Judah and broke the pillars in pieces, cut down the Asherim, and pulled down the high places and the altars throughout all Judah and Benjamin, and in Ephraim and Manasseh, until they had destroyed them all. Then all the people of Israel returned, each to his possession and to their cities. And Hezekiah appointed the divisions of the priests and the Levites, each according to his service, the priests and the Levites for burnt offerings and for peace offerings, to minister and to give thanks and to praise in the gates of the camp of the Lord. The king contributed from his own possessions for the burnt offerings, the morning and the evening burnt offerings, and the burnt offerings on the Sabbaths, and the new moons and the appointed feasts, as it is written in the law of the Lord. And he commanded the people who dwelt in Jerusalem to give the portion of the priests and the Levites, that they might be devoted to the law of the Lord. As soon as the command was spread abroad, the people of Israel gave in abundance the firstfruits of grain, wine, oil, honey, and of all the produce of the field, and they brought in a tithe of everything. And the people of Israel and Judah, who were dwelling in the cities of Judah, also brought in the tithe of oxen and sheep, and the tithe of the dedicated things which had been dedicated to the Lord their God, and brought them in heaps. In the 3rd month they began to make heaps, and finished in the 7th month. When Hezekiah and the princes came and saw the heaps, they blessed the Lord and his people Israel. And Hezekiah questioned the priests and the Levites concerning the heaps. And Azariah the chief priest, of the house of Zadok, answered him, Since the people began to bring the offerings into the house of the Lord, we have eaten and had enough and have plenty left. For the Lord has blessed his people, so that we have this large amount left over. Then Hezekiah commanded them to prepare chambers in the house of the Lord, and they prepared them. And they faithfully brought in the offerings, and the tithes, and the dedicated gifts. And Chenaniah the Levite was in charge of them, and Shimei his brother was second. And Jehiel and Azaziah, and Nahath, and Asahel, and Jeremoth, and Jozabad, and Eliel, and Ismashah, and Mahath, and Benaiah, were overseers under the hand of Chenaniah and Shimei his brother, at the command of Hezekiah the king and Azariah the chief priest of the house of God. And Korah the son of Imnah the Levite, son of Hashub, keeper of the east side gate, was over the freewill offerings of God, to apportion the offerings of the Lord and the most holy things. And Eden and Miniamin and Jeshua and Shemaiah and Amariah and Shechaniah in the cities of the priests, gave to their brethren by divisions, to old and young alike, and distributed them in portions, to all the males among the priests, and to all the Levites who were enrolled from 20 years old and upward, and to all who were enrolled among them in genealogies from 3 years old upward, to all who came to the house of the Lord for their daily service, for their service in their duties according to their courses. And to the priests who were enrolled, and to the Levites who were enrolled, all who were 20 years old or older, to direct the work of the house of the Lord. And to the Levites over the portions of the treasury, the contributions for the sanctuary and the contributions for the showbread, the flour, the wine and the oil, and the incense and the spices, and all the materials of the sanctuary, and the offerings for the sin offerings to make atonement for Israel, and for all the service of the house of God. And Hezekiah did this throughout all Judah, and he did what was good and right and faithful before the Lord his God. And every work that he undertook in the service of the house of God, and in the law and in the commandments to seek his God, he did with all his heart and prospered.